Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Food, Wine, and Whiskey in Your Own Backyard. I am Rob, your host, and joined by my co-host like we are every time, Matt Carter. Carter, known to everybody. How you doing, buddy?
I am great. We're about to drink some wine.
We are about to drink some wine, and it's that time of year with the holidays and people getting together, whether it be, Thanksgiving around the corner, but also Christmas around the corner. And with all these gatherings and things, I think a lot of people that are into wine, they know what they're doing. This episode might be more for people who are invited to a nice dinner where there's going to be wine and they want to take a bottle, but they're not sure what to take.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, you want something that can kind of, be interesting, but also be somewhat budget friendly, right? I mean, if you're just giving it to family who may or may not enjoy wine.
Yeah, I would say the first thing to know is who you're hanging out with. Who you're going with, and then you can kind of go from there. But for the purpose of tonight's episode, we're going to try to stay in that budget kind of California wine, $30 or less, and we'll let everybody know this is going to be part one of $30 or less. Kind of budget holiday wines or wines that can be great gifts or something like that. Part two will be Old World. We thought it would be good to split those two up in different categories because there's just so many that, trying to put them all under one doesn't really do each region, fair justice.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And I think, California, if you're just starting out, it's easy to gravitate toward it because there's just a lot of offerings that are just on prominent display.
Yeah, and for people listening who are in the States, I think that's where they go to first.
Yeah. I always forget that we have an international audience here.
We do have an international audience. So those who listen around the world, I obviously California wines are distributed around the world as well. I don't know, in a lot of other regions how much, but I think they're there.
Yeah, actually, that would be really interesting if we ever go have a food, wine, and whiskey road trip. Overseas. It would be interesting to see what California wines that they have on the shelf.
I like where you're going with that.
Yeah. So,
anybody listening who wants to sponsor that trip, we're open to.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll come to your country.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's jump in. California wines tonight, and you notice we say California. We're not saying Napa.
Yeah, I mean, because California is they've got so many regions. I mean, it's hard to narrow it down. I mean, we could do a whole show on Napa, no doubt, but this is more for getting a nice big swath.
Yeah, and I think this also shows the what do we want to call it? The versatility of California. That there's a lot of regions that produce some really good wines. I think in the States or around the globe, I think, people think Napa Valley first. Yeah. And maybe Sonoma gets a little bit of love, but there's other places like Paso and Lodi and some other places that produce some really good wines too. And tonight's episode, we're going to try to touch on some wines from all of those regions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt. And gosh, I mean, think of, as far as Paso goes, I mean, it's grown in popularity for sure since, you first started hearing the name Paso Robles. But the value there is pretty stunning, really.
Yeah, I think one, California is just expensive. No matter where you go, I'm not going to lie to you. Are you going to find better values in Old World? Probably, but it's a different style of wine.
Absolutely.
So, you have to know that up front that you're getting something different. There's still great value in California wines. And where I wanted to start was what's everybody knows Cabernet Sauvignon, which I think is a great grape. I mean, we all love that wine. But it's not the only grape that is fantastic out of California. And to be quite honest, there's some other varietals that are a better value, if you asked me, out of California. So what are a couple other than Cab that you're a fan of? I know one right off the bat. It's going to be the first one you say. Zinfandel.
Oh, yeah. I'm a huge fan. I love Zinfandel. But, I mean, you can go Petite Syrah, you can go Zin, you can go Merlot, you can go, I mean, shoot, they even have Cab Franc. It's not really going to fall in this category because there's not a lot of cheap Cab Franc.
Yeah.
But
that's kind of where I was with the Cabernet Sauvignon, obviously, but the Merlot, the Zin, the Syrah, Petit Syrah, things like that. You're absolutely right with Cab Franc or Malbec or Petit Verdot. They're there, but they don't really fall into that.
Yeah, I think we probably should clarify. We probably should clarify here that we are talking our parameters here are under $30.
Yeah, 30. Well, I kind of said $30 less. I'm under 30 on every one of mine.
Okay,
so we're good.
Yeah. Me too. I'm actually probably under 25 on most of mine.
So regions that you like, that you're a big fan. Obviously Napa, but where else?
Oh yeah, Sonoma for sure. I've got one on my list. I'll go ahead and name one. I don't have a particular ranking. Do you?
For the wines?
Yeah.
No. I just kind of made a list and no particular order. The values would jump around as we kind of release them, and they are what they are.
Yeah, so I've talked about it on the show before, but I like Sagacio Zin, and that will fall into this category of under 30.
Yeah, but what you have to remember in some of the wines that we're going to talk about, yours being one of them, there's different vineyards that they produce.
That's true.
From.
That's true.
So
I probably should be more specific.
Yeah,
so
you don't have to necessarily be specific, but I just want to make sure people know you can get wines from this producer under $30.
Yes.
There are some that are over $30.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't want somebody to go find a wine and go, these guys are jerks. They lied to me. It's $45.
Oh yeah.
No. That's probably a different vineyard.
You've got a product range here. I mean, you've got old vines, you've got this and that. Like different things.
Just like every producer that makes wine, they have a different range of wines that they produce based on quality of grape and is it estate grown? Is it on the mountain? Whatever. There's a lot of things that go into. The quality and therefore the price that you're going to pay for it.
And I kind of start with Zin just because I don't know, it's a grape that I think gets has been kind of crapped on a little bit, as far as, and I think it's just the reputation of like the sweet, white Zinfandel type of stuff
in the box, in the fridge,
and people just hear the name Zinfandel and go, oh, yeah, I don't like that,
Yeah, I agree. But I think if you give it a shot, we actually had some friends over Saturday night who had never had a Zin before.
Okay.
And because we were doing some pizza, I'm a big fan of Zin with pizza.
Yeah.
And I opened up a Zin from Napa, and they were blown away. They were like, never heard of it. Never heard of Zin before other than the old white Zin like you were talking about.
Yeah.
And they absolutely fell in love and went, this is fantastic. And so to your point, I think whether it be Zin or Merlot, they may have, a reputation that's not fair.
Oh, yeah. Well, we can always talk about sideways. That
I think they've gotten over that hump. But, you go back 10, 12, 15 years and, Merlot God. Was getting beat up.
You want to talk about, like, a movie that maybe just really hurt the Merlot market? I mean, that movie had to have, like done some damage.
We didn't have this plan, but I think you just kind of touched on something great. I think wine movies to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Sideways is absolutely a great one to watch.
Oh, for sure. And then, you turned me on to Bottle Shock.
Bottle Shock is another one that if you haven't seen it and you're into wine at all or you want to go to Napa at all, it's definitely a movie that you should watch. Got a great cast, and it tells the story of how kind of Napa Valley got put on the map, and it was through Chateau Montelena and Stag's Leap. And believe it or not, you might think it had to be a red wine that really put them on the map, and it wasn't. No. It was a Chardonnay from Chateau Montelena, the 1973 Chardonnay that showed very well in the 1976. What did they call that?
Oh God, I don't even know.
The wine tasting competition in France, and just a great movie. If you want to learn the kind of the history of how Napa got put on the map, that's the movie to watch.
Oh yeah, and it's very entertaining as well. It's not just like you get a lot of information. It's actually a pretty entertaining movie.
Yeah, and it's got the old football coach is in it.
Oh yeah. Shoot, who is that?
The old coach from Florida Gators in South Carolina.
Oh, Steve Spurrier.
Steve Spurrier.
Yes.
I'm joking, obviously, but the person who put together and ran that tasting, he owned a wine shop. He's from England. This is based on a true story, obviously, and he's from England. His name was Steve Spurrier, so I always laugh. It's the old football coaches in the movie. But
that's funny.
Anyway, yeah. So that's a great show. Is there any other wine movies that you like to watch?
I did like that one documentary on the stolen wine or whatever.
Sour Grapes.
Sour Grapes, yes.
Sour Grapes is a great one to watch. True story again.
Yeah.
Rudy does a number.
Oh, yeah, Rudy. This isn't the Rudy that you're rooting for from Notre Dame.
And I don't want to, it's been out a while. But obviously if you haven't seen it, you haven't seen it. So I don't want to spoil it for them. But Sour Grapes on Netflix. I don't know where you would find. I think on what's not Hulu, but Prime has the
Bottle Shock, and
Sideways.
Sideways. Man, is there anything else?
Oh yeah, ready?
Yeah. What's
3-part series? Somm.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
Have you seen that?
Yes, that is awesome.
So you it really lets you kind of go behind the veil a little bit of what sommeliers, how they study, what they go through, what that's like to try to get your master sommelier.
Oh,
and, getting to know these guys and gals that are in this show and how it evolves from season 1 to starting to season 2, getting close to the test to some of them becoming a master som. Just a great series. I really loved that series.
Oh,
on Netflix.
No doubt. Well, yeah, definitely watch that. That's a good show.
I thought so. One of my favorites. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I really enjoyed with wine, and if it comes to us, we'll bring it up as we go along.
Yeah, I watch a lot of YouTubes and I like watch a lot of different things, but shows it's hard to. I'm just trying to think what else might be.
But you know what? You bring up a great point. Who do you like on YouTube?
Me.
I would say there's an Asian guy from Korea, and he goes by the Wine King. So if you searched YouTube for the Wine King, you're going to find this gentleman, and he's not a master of wine or a sommelier. He does have on his show a master of wine with him. Mm-hmm. And I tell you what, you learn a lot just each week. He comes up with some very good topics and some things to go through, and he really does a lot of kind of blinding this master of wine, who's an older gentleman from South Africa who is hilarious. I mean, look, if you don't want to hear a few F-bombs dropped during things like that,
maybe that's not the show for you.
Yeah, but he's hilarious, and when he drinks a bad wine, he's not
colorful.
shy. Yeah. But he's one I enjoy, and I'm trying to remember the guy's name. But if you search German master of wine, there's a guy who has a channel who is a German guy, and he's a master of wine, and he does an outstanding job of also reviewing and talking about and educating people on wine. So
yeah,
there's a couple you can jump on and watch.
Oh
on
yeah,
YouTube.
I watch such stuff at random. Like I'll find a wine that I'm like, ooh, this might be something interesting, and then I'll just like do a search and
find somebody talking about
it.
You know what's curious to me, Matt, is I should say Carter is when you get on YouTube, we're food, wine, and whiskey, so we're obviously big into whiskeys and bourbons and things like that. If you search bourbon people, there's 1,000. There's
gosh,
thousands
I
probably.
I see these bourbon guys like all the time. Like I discover a new bourbon or a whiskey channel like every day.
Every day, and that's the algorithm working that just pops it up for. You've watched all these. How about this one? And it's just crazy how many. Now wine, you can watch a couple wine shows. You don't get them popping up that much.
No.
I mean, it's curious to me that there's not as many people doing shows on wine as I would have thought there were. And I kind of have a thought behind that. I think it's because wine, I don't know if there's a right way to say this. It might sound, wine might be a little more difficult. Is that a way to say it? To really kind of dive in and really understand and kind of be somewhat, very knowledgeable. I don't want to say expert, but at least very knowledgeable on. I think, when you get into bourbons, a lot of guys like me and you and other guys that we know, I mean, if you ask anybody in our groups at work or something that know us, they're going to say you're the whiskey guy. You know all the stuff about whiskey. Wines are harder to kind of do.
Oh yeah, well, it's such a vast market, and the regions where it's grown, and the terroir, and the varietals, and the blending, and it's just, there's a lot there, and it's hard to make it simple. Like, I feel like bourbons, once 51% corn, the major producers, like about finishing and rye and things like that. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. And wine is, and we're talking just bourbon. Now, if we were to put whiskey in a category.
Yeah, it's a bigger category.
Now you're getting to where, I think if you did whiskey, now you're comparing like wine.
Yes.
Where maybe you did California, Napa is now like bourbon, if you break it down like that. And
if you were to say, to me, like Scotch, for example, there's so many producers and little producers that are making whiskey. Believe it or not, I know the world is, the distilling world in the United States is growing, and there are some boutique distillers out there that are getting popular, but the big dogs in the distilling world, in bourbon and whiskey in the States, you know who they are.
And I would say included in the big dog category is MGP.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
Them
just
too.
People who they really just produce whiskey and source it, but a lot of product comes from them.
Oh yeah. So
right.
So we decided to. I decided that I'd introduce Rob to one of the wines that's on my list. It's called Piccolo Crew. I'm also getting wine on your table, so I apologize that. But this, I picked it up. The price tag says it all. It's
$29.
$29. It is a 2018 vintage, 50% Cab, 25% Merlot, 15% Malbec, 5% Cab Franc, and 5% Petit Verdot. And honestly,
and you know what this makes this, right?
It's a special. Oh gosh,
I'm not trying to test you. I'll just say it.
Just say it.
A Bordeaux blend. These are all 5 grapes from the Bordeaux.
Oh yeah, that's
wine.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
So it's I guess it's an American Bordeaux blend.
Yeah, and to be honest, almost all Napa is known kind of as that Bordeaux region.
Yeah, so it makes sense.
They have all of those wine, or all of those varietals are grown there, and they use them to make wines just like they do in Bordeaux. The difference with Napa is, when you get to Old World, there's certain regions that you have to grow certain grapes. That's all you can grow there. Where Napa has the flexibility to grow whatever they want.
Yeah.
And so they do some other fun things, or at least try to, and some are successful, some aren't. But it's fun to see them, do some cool things and come up with some great things.
This wine, grown, produced, and bottled by, I think I'm going to pronounce this right, Paolette Winery in Calistoga, California.
And I love how they tie a little, French on there.
Yeah. Well, somebody turned me onto this wine. Actually, I know this is going to sound really weird to the American people who listen to this show, but there is a really unique Kroger that's in
11th Street
on 11th in Houston, where we are, and they have a pretty amazing wine program there. It's very unique, and there's this whole backstory behind it.
Is that where you bought this?
Yes.
I've never seen this. Obviously, there's so many wines, you're not going to see them all.
Yeah.
But I will be stopping by after taking a drink. The nose was fantastic.
Nose is awesome,
Doesn't mean it's going to taste good, but this tastes good. I mean, really good.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
Yeah.
For a $29 bottle of wine, you could take this to any dinner that you're going to.
It has an old world kind of quality to it.
It really does. It's not a high alcohol. It doesn't taste like
14 something.
Is it that
it's
high?
On the front.
It is. Yeah, 14.4, which is actually lower in Napa.
Yeah.
And, most Napa wines are 15 to 16.
Yeah. But I mean, the color's nice on it. You know, it's dark, but it's not like, you know, black like a cab. You know, like it's nice. You know,
and for you, it meets another requirement. I mean, it's not so much the bottle, but cool label.
Cool label. I think it's got kind of like an old school kind of.
That's what I would say. Again, that old world kind of feel on it.
And it's really freaking good.
Yeah, this is absolutely delicious, Carter. I'm very impressed. Not that I didn't think it could be fantastic, but it's actually better than I thought it might be.
Yeah.
But it's Napa Valley, you know, and again, when you start talking about Napa wines, if you get Napa Valley on the label, you know you're going to get, for the most part,
it's going to be a pretty good quality wine.
Now, if it's not really that good, it's probably because the winemaker screwed it up, not the fruit, because Napa fruit's pretty good.
You can grow really great fruit.
Yeah,
there. So you know what you're doing, and trust me, anybody who's a wine grower knows how much it costs to have land there.
Oh, and you know we've talked about that. But so regions that we're going to talk about. This is one wine down on your list, but regions we'll talk about: Napa Valley, Sonoma County, kind of in that area too. Alexander Valley, Paso Robles. These are all areas. You know, I don't want to get too much into the basics of wine again. We have an episode out. If you haven't heard that, go listen to that one if you're trying to get into wine and learn kind of how to read labels and things like that. But let's get into some wines on our list. This is your first one, my first one, and it's not in any particular order, but I just started putting down wines that I really enjoy in that under $30 range. And believe it or not, first one that I had written down, which I think is probably one of the best values in our market, in the Houston market, is the Frank Family's Inn.
I love that one. I thought it was more expensive.
It's regular price $28, and if you buy 6 or more, or combine it with 6 or more when you buy them, you know, you get another 10% off that. So it's like, you know, $25 a bottle. You can't beat it.
I love Frank Family's Inn, and that's Napa, right? Or okay,
yep. Now again, I need to pull the bottle out, but yeah, it's Napa Valley.
Yeah, is
where it comes from. I'm almost sure. I hate to say I'm 100% because every winery sources some grapes from different places. You know, Zen might grow better in Sonoma, but I'm almost positive that comes from Napa.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So what else you got on your list?
So I really like this one. This is, now we're going more like a red blend. It's this proprietary red
and let's
blend.
be honest, all these are blends. Even if it says Cabernet Sauvignon or Zen, none of these are really 100%. They do make 100% wines of a certain varietal, but it's rare. Most of them are at least 75% of whatever we're calling it. That's why we call it whatever it is.
Oh, yeah. And I'm going to look at the breakdown on this, but the bottle, it comes from a large producer, J-Lore. But just because it's a large producer doesn't mean they don't have good stuff.
And you've jumped over to Paso.
Yes, we're in Paso now. And this one is called Pure Paso. 14.5% alcohol.
Not bad.
It's not punch you in the face.
Yeah.
And I'm going to look up the blend, but I love this. And another cool looking bottle. I mean,
label,
nice label. Yeah. Nice label and all that kind of stuff.
Although this wine bottle shape, they can't see it, but it fits in the fridge a little better than this bigger, fatter one.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. It's all about fitting it in the fridge.
Oh, absolutely.
But anyway, I do like this, and I think we kind of talked about it. That Paso Robles, there's some great stuff out of Paso.
Let's just touch on that. Paso and Sonoma. I think Sonoma is a little bit more well known, at least in our group, and that might not be fair for me to. I'm basing that on the people we know. In general, maybe it's not, but Sonoma needs to be on your radar, and Paso. Those are two great areas, but go ahead.
Oh yeah. And honestly, like it's been just a great value area for California over the past few years, and they just make some amazing wines in that area. I mean, it's what were you saying? It's more like a Bordeaux type of.
No, it's actually closer to the Rhone Valley.
Oh, okay.
When you start talking about weather and things like that, and growing conditions, and so when you think of a GSM, that people who like a Chateauneuf de Pape or a Gigondas or something like that,
right?
Like Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, they make some great ones in Napa, but if you're going to go to Paso, that's what you should be looking for. I mean, obviously they make cab because everybody loves cab, right? They're going to make what people want. But if you really wanted what they do best, to me, it's the GSMs, the Grenache, Mourvedres, and Syrahs,
But this one's on my list, and this bottle was typically runs on sale at that Kroger for like, I think $22 or something like that.
So you can't beat that.
I mean,
$22.
Yeah, $22, and you bring this to a party. I don't think that anybody would be disappointed. You know, it's a good solid wine. And I will say that on my list, other than the one that we are consuming, I kind of tried to stay closer to wines that you could find at most.
Well, that's for us again, and we think what your point is it's we think nationally distributed very well, maybe even globally.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think this Piccolo Cru it's probably more of a boutique wine.
Okay.
Would be my guess.
So my next wine for people to be on the lookout for, and it's distributed at least nationally in the United States. Who's a big producer that you absolutely love?
A big producer I absolutely love.
That you think might be your favorite. They have some high-end wines that you absolutely love.
Oh, yeah, Phelps.
Joseph Phelps.
Yes.
Bacchus and
and Insignia and all that kind of stuff, yes.
Would you be surprised to know that they have a wine out that's $30 or less that will just blow the socks off of you?
I think I know this wine.
Have I shared it with you?
Yeah.
It's the Innisfree.
Yeah.
Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's $29.99, $29.98, even at my store. That's right at that threshold for us for $30. And again, we're in the Houston market, so you might be a couple bucks off, but all we can do is go by the pricing we get here in this market. But even if you were paying $33, $35 in a different market, it's still a great value. This is a Joseph Phelps wine for $30.
I mean, that's incredible.
When you drink it, you go, okay, this is freaking delicious. It's that good.
Oh, yeah. So, I'm surprised that I kind of forgot about that. So
you forget about that one?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one for sure.
That's a good one to have. So if you're out and about, I mean, this might be, as far as bang for your buck, on my list, this is probably the best one. When you talk about world-renowned producers, you're getting a wine from them for $30 and a fantastic one. This is probably the best one on the list, on my list. I don't know, that would be my opinion.
Well, I don't know. That's pretty good.
That's freaking delicious too. It's right there, man. That's a good one. Piccolo Cru.
Yeah, you got to go. Is that how you spell piccolo? I don't even know. Or is it?
That's how I pick piccolo.
I don't know.
Piccolo.
Okay. Obviously, I never played that instrument. But
me neither.
Yeah. So one that I kind of wanted to, and I was going to bring this up, and it's kind of interesting because this is a little bit off profile from when you think of Zinfandel.
Okay.
But it's the bottle's called Earthquake. It's a Michael David wine.
Ooh, Michael David.
So I like it because it's a little bit more, I'd say, like approachable.
Okay.
Zen, for somebody who's, maybe accustomed to the thinking of Zen with those peppery notes to it.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a little tamer from that perspective.
But I get that being from Lodi.
Yeah, and it's from Lodi. Yeah.
And that brings up, I think, a good kind of segue to a topic we could talk about. If people are listening to this and aren't huge in the wine, but they're kind of in that place of, I'm getting into wine, and right now I like that sweet wine. I haven't kind of made that transition to dry wine. I think this is something that kind of bridges that gap. And by something, I mean the Lodi region, not specifically this wine, but I think all wines from this region tend to be bigger, fruitier. You get that sweeter sensation. It's not necessarily sweeter. It's just the fruit is more prevalent in it. And so you think it's sweeter. And I think that helps you make that transition to some of the more drier wines that you would get from Sonoma or Napa or somewhere else in Paso.
Yeah. So anyway, be on the lookout for that.
So anyway, he said.
So anyway, no, I agree with you, man. And I think that I think it's kind of cool because I believe that the story is on this the earthquake is talking about like the turn of the century earthquake.
Is that the one in 94?
No, the one in like 1904.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, and that's kind of when I guess this particular vineyard was started around that time, and they call it the earthquake. So anyway,
cool name.
So I like a story. I'm a bourbon guy. You got to have a story.
Well,
right?
no, I think that's everything. Food, wine, and whiskey. There's a story behind everything, and that's what we love about all of these things.
Yeah,
kind of finding those stories behind these things.
Yeah.
All right, next on my list is one that not only do I enjoy the wine, but we know the head winemaker, Glenn Hugo, over at Gerard. And Gerard makes some fantastic wines. They make some really, high-end, really bang, really going to wow you with whether it be mountain fruit or just some really good wines. Yeah. But they make some great, I don't want to call them budget wines, but economy wines.
Yeah.
You don't have to be on a budget, but they're economy wines in which you still get great wines for a really good value, a really good price. And one for me is their Petite Syrah. And here in our market, we get it for $23. And if you've not had a Petite Syrah or a Syrah, that varietal, I definitely would recommend trying it. Again, it has that big fruit. It's more of that darker fruit, the black fruit, blackberries and plums and things like that. But it's delicious, and I think it's absolutely one that, it's distributed nationally. So if you can find it in your market, it's one that needs to be on your list.
Oh, yeah. I'm a fan of Petite Syrah. Don't let the name confuse you. It is not petite on the flavor.
No, petite just referencing the grape.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I completely agree. And honestly, somebody who hasn't really explored Petite Syrah, kind of be on the lookout for it, give it a try, because it is really a great varietal.
And this is one I like for bourbon drinkers because, like I said, you get the blackberry, the blueberry, the plum, those black fruit notes, but you also get, that oak and that coffee and vanilla and leather and cocoa.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, when you think about a bourbon drinker, that's kind of what they like in that.
Absolutely.
So for somebody who drinks bourbon and says, I want to go to, try some wines, this might be a varietal that might, make you feel good about drinking some wine.
Hit a lot of spots.
Yeah.
For you.
That's what she said.
Yep.
Okay. There you go. What else you got on your list? That's my Petite Syrah.
Okay. So this one wins for me. Cool bottle, cool artwork. So some people who are wine snobs might kind of laugh at this one because on Vivino, this was one of the highest ranked. It was a 4 or 5 when it first came out, or something like
serious?
that. Yeah, it's nuts, right? So I had to try it. Because I'm okay, cool. It's got, this thing is reviewed like crazy. It's awesome. Well, it was not what I expected at all. So they call it's Hillside Cab. And the thing about this particular wine is that when you pour it in a glass, it looks a lot. That one. It's gone down some, but
not much.
Yeah, but when you pour this in the glass, and you think of a cab, you're gonna think it's pretty dark. This has more of leans more toward the ruby side.
Oh, really?
Of things. And another thing about this is the nose is okay. But on the first sip, you're going to think it's a little bit on the thinner side. Then you take that second sip, and it just blooms. It goes for a long time, and you get a lot of the earthy qualities out of it.
Do you just pour this, or do you kind of let it open up for 15?
No. I mean, I just
pop it and pour.
Pop and pour. Yeah.
Okay.
And they say it's like juggernaut because of the tenacious hillside Cabernet Sauvignon. The struggle and all that kind of stuff. But it's interesting. I like this wine because it is fairly unique, so it doesn't kind of fall in the profile, I guess, that you think a lot of times.
Yeah.
And it does have the coolest artwork on the front of that bottle. That is super cool.
That's pretty cool. But who's this made by?
It's called Juggernaut Wine Company.
Okay. The label makes me think Michael David. All the colors.
It looks like it.
Yeah.
Produced and bottled by Juggernaut Wine Company, Clarksburg, California.
Clarksburg. Don't even know where that's at.
I have no clue. But one cool thing about this, if you go look up this wine on, you can look it up, on the internet or whatever. They will show you the breakdown of the places where they get all of the grapes for this. So the different AVAs.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool to have that kind of transparency.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
rarely see that,
Yeah.
So
most wines, if you go to their website, they'll give you the spec sheet on their wine. It may not tell you exactly where it came from.
Yeah.
But they'll tell you the varietals. But you can get a sense of where it came from by the label. If it says just California, be nervous.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. But yeah, I mean, and this bottle is on sale for $20.
Yeah, you can't beat that. I mean, again, solid $20 wine. I've never had it.
Yeah, we'll have to try it sometime.
Yeah.
But I think you'll like it. It's unique to me. It's for a cab. It's like the total pizza wine.
Oh, there you go.
So
I'm going to stay kind of in that region and go back to Paso Robles, which I'm going to mention a wine that I think is absolutely fantastic. And it's here in this market about $22, somewhere in that range at most places. But I think everywhere else, it's probably not more than $25. And that's the Cabernet Sauvignon from Dow.
Was on my list as well.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that one.
It's just a quality wine. They actually have a reserve that they charge here in Houston, $51.
Yeah.
I prefer this one. I've tasted them side by side.
Mm-hmm.
And this $22, $25 wine, to me, my palate, is better. And when I know I can buy two of these bottles for the price of one of the other ones, and I like these better, I mean, there you go, a little bang for your buck.
I do like the reserve, but what I'll say is it worth the $50 compared to the $22?
Not even close.
No.
Not even close.
No. So yeah, I save your money, just get the regular Paso cab.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's really good. It's
delicious.
Really fruit, I really enjoy that one a lot.
Yeah. Another one I'll just throw that's kind of in that category is Justin. I don't know if you've ever had
Justin,
from Paso. It's also, I would compare it very similarly to Dow. So there's two for you, both in that $22 range. So
yeah.
Fantastic.
No doubt, man.
Go ahead. What else you got on your list?
Well, that was kind of you said 5, so I went with 5. But but I can throw some other ones on the list.
What do you got?
There's one that I will say for value. You can cook with it and not feel bad about it, and you can also drink it while you're cooking with it and not feel bad about it.
Okay.
It's a Paso Robles cab called Broadside. And I think they're just, they just source grapes. I mean, I don't think they're a grower. I may be wrong, but I'll say this: HEB runs a special on that wine for $12, and it is all of $12.
Really?
Oh yeah, it
punches way above its weight class.
Way. I mean, that tastes like a $25 wine. 25 to 30.
Those are the kind of wines we like to find.
Yes.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, I'm going to throw out. I've got a few more actually. I'm going to tell you that if you've never had Rutherford Ranch Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa Valley,
I have not.
It's usually around that $25 to $27 range. Absolutely fantastic wine. Again, you're hearing Napa Valley, and so that should tell you that the fruit's going to be really good. Oh, yeah. And that's, how do you make good wine? You start with good fruit and hope the winemaker doesn't screw it up.
Of course. Yeah. Of course.
Another one I'll throw out real quick is Full of Dew, which is from Alexander Valley.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a Cabernet Sauvignon, but it is also a fantastic wine, and that one's anywhere from $20 to $22, another great value. So a lot of people go, you can't get good value in Napa. You can't get really good wines for a great price. You really can.
Yeah, you can. Absolutely. But
I think part of the problem is, you tell me if you disagree with this, Carter.
Okay.
I think some people make that trip to Napa, and they get into these wine tastings.
Oh, yeah.
These wine tastings, they don't pour you their $15, $20 bottles. They're pouring you their $50 to $200 bottles, and they want you to join their club. And you fall in love with these wines, and you're like, they're $50, $70, $80, $100 a bottle. And you kind of get stuck in a couple of clubs. And I say stuck because inevitably everybody I've known who's ever went joins 2 or 3 clubs before they leave town. And you start getting all these wines coming. And then you're like, man, I'm spending a lot for these wines. And you just kind of start to associate Napa is only expensive wines. And there are a lot of expensive wines.
Yeah.
But there's some good values too that I think people miss a lot of times.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you get wrapped up in it. I've been and you go to a tasting and then you just start going crazy. I mean, and it's easy to do because you're tasting all these great wines, and everything. And
you're in the mountains.
You're in the mountains. I mean, you're like, what else you got? I want to try the reserve wine. I want to try this, that, and the other, And then you end up signing up for like a half dozen club memberships.
Yeah, and when you think about a wine membership, it's not once a year. Usually 3 to 4 times.
3 or 4 times a year. Yeah.
So it can add up pretty quick. But I think that's where people kind of get that perception, and it's not an unfair perception of Napa that it's expensive. It is expensive.
Yep.
But I think the unfair part of it is there's not quality at a good value there, and there still is. You just have to know what it is and where to look for it.
So one that I like that I think it falls under this kid. Now, there's a producer in Sonoma called Gun Like Bunchu. And I'm a big fan. We actually have a membership with them. And I mostly really like them for the Gewürztraminer. It's just a great wine,
We're gonna have to do an episode on whites.
Yeah, no doubt. But they produce a Merlot that is fantastic, and I think it's around $30. Because now I've exhausted my list, so I'm like kind of just shooting from the hip here. Yeah. But that's a great wine. Now it might be wine club only. Or like if you're in California or if you're in the area,
right?
But that's a wine that we really like, me and my wife. And my goodness, what else?
There's more than people think. I mean, I'll just rattle off a couple. Hunt and Harvest is one that I like a lot.
Yeah.
And it's usually about $25, $27, and it rates pretty high. Harvey and Harriet is a red blend from back in Paso, which is a fantastic wine. We get it for about $28 here.
Yep.
A great wine. And then there's, we all know Duckhorn, or I say we all know. People who know wine in Napa know who Duckhorn is.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they have a second label. You know who their second label is, right, Carter?
No, I don't.
Decoy.
Oh, Decoy. Yeah.
And Decoy actually makes, some really good wines. They make some good cabs. They make some great Merlots. And those are going to be in that $20 to $25 range, and they're still quality. It might be Sonoma. It might be Napa. They cover kind of all those regions with some grapes that they get for that particular label, but it's really, really good.
Yeah, I like Decoy wines. They're generally pretty solid, and there you go.
That's their limited.
Yeah, I mean, it is $28.
Yeah, that's what
that's pretty good,
And this is a new one that they just released.
I've not seen that one on the shelf. I kind of like that label, though.
I figured you might. But it's a delicious wine, and it says limited. I don't know, if they just kind of put that on there so they had an out in case they didn't do well with whatever it was. But I bought a bottle of it, and we drank it, and it's absolutely a solid wine. Very good wine. So I would expect to see this one go from probably limited to being around, unless it comes from a place where, they source the grapes and they just can't, they don't have a commitment to be able to get them every year.
Yeah, sure.
That happens sometimes.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. But the world is pretty wide open here. But, what would you say, Rob, is your biggest resource for finding wines? I mean, other than food, wine, and whiskey.
For finding wines that you like?
Well, I mean, something that's more highly rated, like something, a resource that, because like if you go
Wine
into this,
Spectator.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
Look it up online. Yeah, Wine Spectator. Get the app on your phone, and whenever you want to look up something, always look it up on Wine Spectator first. A lot of people, I mean, Vinvino is huge.
Yeah.
But Wine Spectator is actually wine people. And I'm not trying to diss on people in, Vinvino, but to your point, this juggernaut, although it's a solid wine, I guarantee it's not a 4.5 out of 5.
No.
So that just goes to show you that, if you get a bunch of people that just love sweet wine or something like that, they're going to make something seem better than
they're
going
to elevate it. But
Vinvino is a great way to track your wine and things like that. But if you're going to go for wanting to get and again, even with Wine Spectator, you have wine people. You have to find these wine people who are judging and grading these wines, figure out what their palate is and how does it align with your palate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just if he likes it, I'm going to like it. We all like different things.
And it's like kind of like it's like we've talked about the bourbon journey. There's like a wine journey.
Absolutely, there is.
And
there's a food journey.
Yeah, and there might be some guy who's reviewing the wine who is just obsessed with a certain flavor profile at the time, and then he gets something that isn't that flavor profile, and he's like, nah, I don't like this wine.
Totally agree.
That happens.
Totally agree. And again, we always talk about, like with whiskey, the whiskey doesn't change, but your mood that day might change. What you ate for lunch or dinner and then having it might change, which affects how it tastes to you. And that can happen with a guy rating a wine, that he just, whatever that day, he had whatever or was in whatever mood, and then he tasted it and then he didn't rate it as high, or he rated it higher than it probably should have been. It goes both ways. So the best way to find out what you like, drink wine.
Yeah.
Just drink a bunch of wine.
It's good to look at these things as just kind of a resource or whatever, but, you're going to disagree with these people too. So,
sure.
You take it as like, it's a good place to kind of get a little bit of a guide down a path, but,
absolutely.
You stray from the path.
Yeah. And again, people who are listening who are big wine people, this may not be the episode for you. But this is more for those people who are trying to get into wine or maybe aren't into wine at all, but they have to go to or need to go to a dinner or a party or a gathering where taking a bottle of wine is the appropriate thing to do, and wanting to pick up something that from California that would be well received.
Yeah.
When you take it, you're not, it's going to be put in the glass and people are going to enjoy drinking it.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
And all of these fall into that category.
For sure.
All right, man. Fun episode.
I loved it, man. It's it's good to cover the full spectrum of wine,
Yeah, and like we said, this is part one of kind of covering those budget reds under $30. We stayed specifically in the States on this one in California. But the next episode, part two, will be covering the old world. And then part three will be covering, getting into Argentina, Chile, and Australia and places like that.
Yeah.
Other New World areas. So, little series we got going on here.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, I love this. And, boy, it's going to be real hard to narrow down the next one.
That's going to be tough when you get into old world. I mean, it's just no wrong. Well, there's no wrong answer, but there's just millions to pick from. But we'll also in that episode, that might be a little bit more in helping people understand kind of the labels and things like that as well, so they know what they're getting in old world. Because I think old world, if you're getting into wine, you enjoy California right now, and you're trying to grow that enjoyment of California, at some point you need to also take a step and a leap, if you will, into old world and start exploring there, because one, it's great value, and two, it's just some really great wines that they have in old world. So
no doubt.
Well, everybody, thank you for listening to this episode of Food, Wine, and Whiskey in Your Own Backyard. And until our next episode, enjoy your next pour. No cheers, everybody? No, nothing?
Of wine.
Of wine.
And cheers, everybody.